At her mother's funeral, my daughter smirked, but what happened when the will was read? The sky was a bruised shade of gray, heavy with the scent of impending rain. As the guests gathered around the open grave, a shiver pierced through the crowd in eeriness that felt almost tangible. In the middle of the somber scene stood my 12-year-old daughter, Sarah, with an expression that sent chills down my spine. She was smirking. Not just a little smile, but a grin that seemed out of place against the backdrop of mourning. The whispers began shock rippled through the air like a wave crashing against the shore. What was happening? How could she dare, if it was supposed to be a respectful farewell to my mother, a woman filled with generous spirit and fierce love? Sarah's demeanor was like salt on a wound. The murmurs grew louder, eyes tracking her, judging. What is wrong with her? Someone hissed in disbelief. I could hardly move, a tightness gripped my chest, a mixture of confusion and anger blossoming inside me. Nobody was supposed to steal the spotlight at such a moment. Yet, her face was a mask of defiance, a question loomed over her smile, one I didn't want to confront. As the funeral proceeded, an anxiety crept into the air with each spoken word. The pastor's voice was soft, almost drowned by the rustling of leaves in the wind, yet my heart raced, fueled by Sarah's strange behavior. What on earth could make a child behave this way? The atmosphere thickened, pulling at my breath, every minute stretching on like an eternity. I glanced at her, trying to decipher the secret behind that smirk. A mix of dread and disbelief clashed within me. I had to know what was going on in her mind, and then, the moment came the will reading. As the lawyer, a pallid man with spectacles balanced on the edge of his nose, unfolded the crinkled document, everyone leaned in closer. You could taste the tension, thick enough to slice through. To my beloved daughter, Vanessa, he began, voice tremulous. I could feel the cold dread in the pit of my stomach. What would come next? My heart hammered as the name echoed in that silent graveyard. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I caught my breath, the lawyer continued. And all her belongings shall be divided among those living. My eyes darted back to Sarah, her smug look hadn't budged. What was she planning? What was in it for her? The tension was electric. It was as if an invisible thread tied my heart to hers, and with each word spoken, that connection stretched tighter. My mind raced, haunted by uncertainty. I could hear harsh whispers, the lingering judgment of a grieving family. How could she? Floated among the crowd. But the question lingered unasked, hanging in the air between us. As the lawyer read the details, a shadow fell over Sarah's face, cracking that sinister grin just slightly. It was enough to make me wonder, had I misread her? What if it was more than just a smirk? The future felt murky, a fog shrouding her intentions. The reading drew to an end, each word closing doors I never wanted to open, but now, I was desperate for answers. I could feel the weight of uncertainty like a heavy cloak, tighter around my shoulders with each passing second. I needed to know what she was hiding. And as the last line rolled off the lawyer's tongue, a single thought echoed through my mind, as chilling and raw as the wind. What had I unleashed? What were the depths my daughter was hiding? The crowd murmured, trying to process the implications of what was happening. My heart raced as the lawyer's voice faded into a blur of anxiety and disbelief. I needed to lift the veil on Sarah's glee, a feeling that felt wrong and unfitting for such a heavy moment. As guests began to disperse, their eyes still drilled into her, I could no longer pretend everything was fine. Sarah, I called, my voice barely above a whisper, thick with desperation. She turned to me, and that creepy, mocking grin returned, more pronounced than before. My blood ran cold. What is going on? Why are you smiling? Her expression shifted for a fleeting moment, an inscrutable flicker crossed her young face before she buried it deep beneath that veneer of mischief. "I just find it funny," she replied, her voice too casual, almost teasing, as if she were sharing a grand joke I'd yet to catch on to. Funny? What's funny about this? My frustration was swelling, bubbling to the surface. I wanted answers, and I wanted them now. But she merely shrugged, her nonchalance unnerving the pit of my stomach. It didn't help that the lingering watchful eyes of my family were upon us, their judgment hanging thick in the air. As the guests trickled away, leaving only a few stragglers to share condolences with me, I pulled Sarah aside, urgency igniting within me. "This isn't a game, Sarah. You need to tell me what you thought was so funny. Do you understand?" Her eyes sparkled mischievously, a hint of something else behind them, something darker that sent fresh chills coursing through me. "You really don't know, do you?" she mused, tilting her head as if I were the puzzle rather than her. "You'll see. Just wait for the surprise." "Surprise? What surprise?" Panic clawed at my throat. "What are you talking about?" "Just wait," she said cryptically, her gaze drifting to the distant horizon, a mischievous glint lingering there that struck me cold. A bitter wind swept through the graveyard, unsettling me further. There was more to this than I could see. Something dreadful simmered beneath the surface of her fleeting smile that I stepped back from her, frustration mingling with dread. What had my mother done? The will had hinted at intrigue, but I couldn't fathom how my 12-year-old child fit into this chaotic tapestry woven with grief and greed. The pieces were disjointed, not even close to fitting together. As the sky darkened, a storm began to brew above us, echoes of thunder rumbling ominously. I turned my attention back to Sarah, who had been lost in a world of her own. "What about the house, Sarah?" I pressed, anxiety rising like the tempest around us. "There's something there, isn't there?" At that moment, her expression shifted from whimsical to inscrutable. "You'll find out soon enough. Just wait until the end of the week," she said, her voice a chilling whisper that a knot twisted in my stomach. Whatever it was, it didn't bide well for me. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, each more dreadful than the last. As we drove home, Sarah sat silently beside me, a heavy fog of uncertainty enveloping our journey. I kept stealing glances at her, trying to read her thoughts, but she was a closed book, each page turned away from my view. Would I discover the depths of her intentions in time? Or had I ignited a series of events that would spiral out of control? The rain began to patter against the windshield, merging with my heartbeat steadily quickening, echoing the pulse of fear within me. And then, just as we pulled into our driveway, my phone buzzed sharply, an unknown number flashing ominously across the screen. A jolt ran through my veins as the call connected, a deep voice on the other end sending shivers cascading down my spine. "Vanessa, it's time we talk about the implications of your mother's will. What did they know?" My grip tightened on the steering wheel, every instinct screaming to run, but no escape was possible. I took a deep breath. The storm was just beginning. What awaited me on the other side? I barely registered the smooth sound of gravel crunching beneath the tires. My focus was locked on the phone call. Who was this stranger? My heart thudded violently against my ribs, the very air practically crackling with tension. "What do you want?" I gasped, straining for composure. "Let us not play games, Vanessa. Your mother left you something rather interesting," the voice said, low and smooth, freezing the blood in my veins. "What do you mean?" I demanded, voice trembling. "What did she leave? What are you talking about?" Silence cloaked the other end for a split second before it rippled back, causing my stomach to lurch. "Meet me at the old house tomorrow. You'll want to see the contents of her estate. There's something there you can't overlook." I felt the color drain from my face. It was an invitation I couldn't refuse, but dread gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. "Why should I trust you?" I pressed, desperate to cling to any shred of rationality. "Trust is a commodity, Vanessa. Curiosity, however, is inevitable. I suggest you bring your daughter. Don't be late." The line went dead, leaving only static. My fingers trembled as I ended the call, the implications swirling through my mind like leaves in a storm. I turned to Sarah, who still sat beside me, staring at the passing raindrops with that eerie smile. "What did he say?" she asked, an innocent tone dripping from her words, but there was nothing innocent about her curiosity. "It's nothing," I replied, the words tasting bitter as they slid off my tongue. How could I possibly explain this? I didn't even understand it myself. The storm intensified, shadows growing larger in the dying light as I slammed the car door behind me. I felt an urge to confront Sarah, to pull more answers out of her, but my emotional reservoir was running dry. That night, sleep evaded me. Each creak of the house echoed through the silence, sharpening my anxiety. I kept replaying snippets of the day in my mind, the lawyer's grave expression, Sarah's uncharacteristic smirk, and the stranger's disquieting invitation. What was waiting for me at the house? By dawn, fear morphed into a resolve. I had to confront whatever storm was brewing at that old house, whatever grim gift my mother had left behind. The drive felt interminable. Sarah sat silent, her presence heavy, each mile echoing the unspoken tension growing between us. I glanced sideways at her, searching for any hints of malice or mischief, but all I found was that unsettling gaze directed out the window. The old house loomed into view, its gaunt structure grasping at the gray sky like skeletal fingers. A wash of unease washed over me, yet it was overridden by an overpowering need to unveil the mysteries it held. "Are you ready?" I asked her, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. With a slight nod, she unbuckled her seatbelt, her expression still eerily placid. As we stepped onto the porch, the wood squeaked underfoot, almost whispering secrets long buried. The door stood ajar, as if waiting for us. I hesitated, then pushed it fully open. Darkness enveloped us, and I flicked on the light. Dust danced in the beam, swirling around the familiar surroundings that were once filled with life. "Mom?" I called hesitantly. The absence of sound made my heart race. Something caught my eye, a package lying in the center of the living room, neatly wrapped, untouched, as if it had been waiting just for us. My stomach turned at the sight, and Sarah moved closer, her expression shifting into a tangible hunger for revelation. I walked slowly, each step bringing a sense of dread and curiosity. What was inside? "Open it, Mom," Sarah urged, her voice wrapping around me like a shroud. A chill ran through me. What had I unleashed? The contents of this package could hold answers or unleash even more chaos. With trembling hands, I reached for the paper and began to unwrap it. What lay inside could change everything. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest, as the realization struck. It was more than I could have ever prepared for. "What have we done?" I whispered. Horrified, as Sarah's grin deepened, foreboding and ominous, tomorrow, the terrifying truth would reveal itself, and it might just shatter everything we thought we knew. The package felt heavy in my hands, oppressive, as though it held not just its contents, but the weight of every unsaid word between Sarah and me. I dared not look directly at her. Instead, I turned my attention back to the wrapping. It was a familiar design, one I'd seen countless times before. My mother's favorite, intricate floral patterns that seemed to dance on the surface. Tearing away the paper felt like a betrayal. Each pull revealed more of what was hidden, and yet, I was desperate to know what horrors I might awaken. The box inside was leather-bound, adorned with strange symbols burned into the surface. It pulsed with a palpable energy, as if it were a living thing. I realized I was holding my mother's journal, a relic of her past. "Open it," came Sarah's insistence again, edged with an almost predatory excitement. Swallowing hard, I reluctantly unclasped the cover. The air shifted around us, heavy with anticipation. The first page was filled with my mother's elegant script, a graceful swirl of words etched into the page like whispers in the dark. It spoke of love, loss, and longing, but as I scanned down through the pages, the tone grew darker. Talk of secret gatherings, shadows lurking in the night, and the weight of family legacies loomed heavily. "She was hiding something," I muttered, chills racing down my spine. Maybe it's not just her secrets, Sarah replied, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. Maybe it's ours too. I shot her a sharp look, but there was something unnerving in her gaze. Could she really know what this was leading us to? What had been passed down through blood? The walls seemed to close in tighter. Suddenly, there was a loud thump upstairs, echoing through the house like a jagged shout against the silence. My heart lurched, instinctively pulling Sarah closer, as if somehow my presence could shield her. "What was that?" she asked, her innocent tone a stark contrast to my racing heartbeat. "Stay here," I hissed, although my own voice trembled. I slowly started toward the staircase, each creak amplifying the weight of the moment. A primal instinct screamed that I shouldn't move forward, but curiosity pulled me like a moth to a flame. I climbed the stairs cautiously, the hairs on the back of my neck rising with each step. The thumps came again, too faint to tell whether it was a fall or something more sinister. As I reached the top, I could feel the oppressive atmosphere steeping into the hallway. The door to the attic stood ajar, and I could see the faint light spilling out, casting eerie shapes along the floor. My heart raced as I approached, dread curling in my stomach. I glanced back at Sarah, her expression twisted into a mix of excitement and something darker. "Mom, what if it's something amazing?" she implored, her voice seductively low, drawing me in further. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open wider. The light became blinding. Inside, dusty old boxes were piled haphazardly, artifacts of a life long forgotten. Something glinted in the corner, catching my eye. Was that an old photograph? As I shuffled closer, I could feel the air shift. It was thicker up here, buzzing with a charged electricity that shocked my skin. My fingers trembled as I reached for the photograph, and what I saw made my breath hitch painfully in my throat. It was a family portrait, but not one I recognized. A shadowy figure loomed behind us, eyes pinning me with a haunting gaze. It felt like looking into a mirror, except the reflection was twisted, and the smile on my face was not my own. "What is this?" I gasped, the world spinning around me. That I turned back to Sarah, desperate for comfort, but she was gone. Just like that, swallowed by the shadows. A frigid weight settled on my chest. The photograph slipped from my fingers as I called out for her, panic rising like bile. The darkness laughed back. "Sarah." But only silence answered, thick and suffocating. The truth was about to unravel, and I was unprepared for the depths of this family curse. What had I awakened? Tomorrow, I would have to face not just the secrets of my mother, but also the depths of my daughter's hidden intentions. I stood frozen, the dust swirling in the air like confetti at a ghastly celebration. The photo lay on the floor, the shape of that shadow a distortion of my family imprinted in my mind. My heart thudded like a drum, each beat sinking with the rising fear in my chest. Where could Sarah possibly be? "Sarah!" I shouted again, my voice cracking. I stepped fully into the attic, the door creaking ominously behind me. The light flickered, casting jagged shadows that danced like fiends across the walls. I scanned the cluttered space, my throat tight with anxiety. The memory of the photograph cut deep. What had it meant? The attic was filled with relics of the past, objects that looked like they hadn't seen daylight in years, old toys, broken furniture, boxes marked with indecipherable scribbles. My fingers brushed against a silk scarf, its fabric whispering secrets of times long gone. Distracted, I wondered if it once belonged to my mother. Another thump rang through the attic, more forceful now. It echoed through the wood beams, firm and terrifying. I jumped, my instincts screaming that something was very wrong. "Sarah!" Nothing but silence answered, stifling and oppressive. I felt the urge to flee, but I needed to find her. She had to be nearby. There was an overwhelming instinct rising within me, some inexplicable bond tying me to her even now, in this void. Then I heard it, a faint, almost melodic whisper. It beckoned me, calling my name with a familiarity that sent ice through my veins. "Mom," the voice sang, sweet yet sinister. I spun around, eyes wide, searching for the source. "Sarah?" My heart raced, echoing its own terror. The whisper continued, drifting like smoke. "Mom, come follow me." Following that voice felt like stepping into a trap, but I couldn't resist. I stumbled toward the back of the attic, drawn by that deceptive sweetness. The air thickened with tension as I moved past a stack of old books. The whispers escalated, now swirling around me, each word a silk thread pulling me closer to the dark corner of the attic where nothing seemed to have been disturbed. I reached for the door to what appeared to be a small room hidden behind a wall of stacked boxes. My heart raced as I tugged it open, the creaking of the hinges sounding like a warning. What I found inside made my blood run cold. It was a room filled with old ceremonial objects, adorned with the very symbols marking my mother's journal. Candles lined the edges, long burnt down to nothing but waxy remnants. In the center stood a table, a heart and a dagger, how grotesque, yet oddly mesmerizing. "Mom!" came Sarah's voice again, now closer, almost right behind me, and my gut twisted painfully. I whirled around, but the attic was empty. Panic unfurled in my chest like a dark bloom. "Where are you?" I called out desperately. My breath came in gasps, the realization settling in. Each moment spent searching for her felt like an eternity lost in shadows. And outside, the storm rumbled ominously, thunder rolling in like a warning chant. Then I noticed it, a thin trail of pale, flickering light winding toward the now open attic window. I moved to the edge, peering outside into the ominous night. Below, the storm battered the earth, rain lashing against the roof, but something in that light felt unnatural. "Mom, come play." The sing-song taunt echoed through the attic, laughter dancing behind it, a childlike glee that sent icy fingers creeping up my spine. "Stop it!" I shouted, recoiling from the window. "This isn't funny, Sarah." But as I turned back, the room had shifted, everything feeling off-kilter. The tiny ceremonial room felt alive, pulsating with energy as the darkness around me deepened. My heart pounded louder, drowning out any thought, as the shadows deepened, and the laughter blended with whispering tones that chanted my name. My blood ran cold. What lay beyond that door now? What kind of game was Sarah playing, and what was it leading us to? I took a deep breath, the air filling my lungs with the weight of dread, and stepped forward, knowing I had no choice but to confront the truth. What had we awakened in this house? And how would I face the depths of its darkness? The air in the attic thickened, wrapping around me like an uninvited shroud. I stepped cautiously into the ceremonial room, the shadows elongating as I moved. The table at the center seemed to draw my gaze fiercely, the heart and dagger stark against the dimness. They felt like remnants of some ritual gone horribly wrong, yet I couldn't look away. "Sarah!" I called out again, my voice trembling as it echoed back to me. The silence that followed sent a shiver down my spine. In the pit of my stomach, the dread twisted tighter, a serpent coiling around my thoughts. What was happening? The trail of flickering light caught my attention again, wavering like a ghostly finger beckoning me from the window. My feet felt leaden, but curiosity compelled me forward despite the warnings flooding my mind. I leaned against the wall, heart racing as I peered out into the storm. "What is it?" I whispered to the light, half expecting it to answer. Instead, it pulsed, vibrant and otherworldly, as if somehow aware of my presence. The rain fell in sheets, washing the world outside into a blurred watercolor of dark hues. Yet, the light remained, an anchor to some unseen force. "Mom, come play." The laughter again, taunting, twisting in my ears. It wasn't just Sarah's voice anymore. It felt like 1,000 whispers, all chattering over one another. Panic surged within me, my instincts screaming to flee this haunted space. But then was it my imagination? A flash of movement in the corner of my eye. I turned sharply, straining to see, when suddenly, the door behind me slammed shut, locking me in. The sharp noise cracked the stillness like thunder, and I yelped. My heart racing, I rushed back to the door and pulled at the handle. It wouldn't budge. "Sarah!" I cried, panic rising in my throat. "What's happening?" The whispers grew louder, overlapping until they became a cacophony that throbbed in my chest. I pressed my palms against my ears, trying to drown them out, but the sheer volume only escalated. From the back of the room, the sickly sweet scent of burnt candles filled my nostrils, and I doubled over, gagging. The table seemed to vibrate, sending a tremor through the floor beneath my feet. The heart glowed, its warmth feel like a heartbeat of its own. Then slowly, deliberately, I turned to face it again. It was as if the room moaned, beckoning me forward. The intrusion was undeniable, something ancient, something dark, nested within these walls, just waiting to be awakened. Suddenly, a flash of white darts out from behind the table. I froze as a shadow leaped, the flickering light illuminating the form of a small child half hidden behind the dagger. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized a familiar silhouette. "Sarah!" I shouted, my voice cracking. But just as quickly as it appeared, the figure vanished, swallowed by the darkness. The laughter morphed, twisting into a malevolent sound that rattled my bones. Shadowy tendrils danced on the edges of my vision, creeping closer with each breath I took that I needed to act. I fumbled through the chaos in my mind. What had my mother warned me about? Old family secrets whispered around me, challenging my very existence. And then I saw the old journal peeking out from an open box across the room. My only lifeline, a piece of my mother's wisdom floating amidst this madness. Instinctively, I lunged toward it, dodging the thickening shadows that seemed to stretch and reach for me. I dove across the floor, adrenaline pumping, hands outstretched. Grabbing the journal, I could feel the energies swirling, pressing down on me. "Let her go!" I shouted, summoning every ounce of courage within. I clutched the journal against my chest. The shadows pulsed in reaction, swinging between conformity and rebellion, as if weighing my words. Whatever was beyond this threshold wanted to claim me, yet somehow, this relic of the past felt like a shield. But the shadows weren't finished. They surged forward, wrapping around me like a vice. "Mom?" The voice came again, closer, more insistent than I. In that moment, I realized the truth. I wasn't just fighting for myself, but for Sarah, too. I inhaled sharply, ready to wield the journal's power against the encroaching darkness. But what would I face next? And as I readied myself for whatever lay ahead in this battle of light and shadow, a new voice echoed softly in the air, one I could barely discern. "Mom, help me." Would I unlock the answers within these pages, or had I unearthed something far worse? The shadows writhed around me like living things, their cold tendrils slithering against my skin, each one pulling me deeper into despair. The journal felt heavy in my grasp, its pages whispering secrets. I forced myself to open it, flicking through the brittle leaves. "Sarah!" I called again, desperation thickening my voice. If only she could hear me. If only I could reach her. The shadows swirled more aggressively at the sound of her name, but I pressed on, scanning the hurriedly scribbled notes my mother had left behind. Some were indecipherable, scrawled in a near-demonic hand that sent chills down my spine. Others, though, flickered memories of my childhood, rites of passage, family tales, warnings cloaked in mystique. Suddenly, one phrase jumped out at me. To confront the darkness, one must understand the light within. Understanding. Heart racing, I focused on my inner strength. My love for Sarah, my will to protect her, burned brighter than the shadows around me. I felt that fire in my chest, warmth spreading, pushing back against the cold that threatened to envelop me. "Stay back!" I shouted, channeling that heat, letting it pulse from my core. The shadows recoiled momentarily, confusion mingled with their anger. I concentrated on the memories: a sunny day with Sarah, her laughter like music, her tiny hands tugging at mine. As I thought of her, the images brightened in my mind, illuminating the room. The dagger glinted in response, a faint yet powerful glow emanating from it, intertwining with the aura that surrounded me. "Mom, help me!" the voice echoed again, this time merging with yet another "save her." The flames of light intensified, driven by determination. What had once overwhelmed me now felt like a beacon, a guide through the darkness, but just then, the shadows surged forward again, no longer merely encroaching, but attacking. They coiled like barbed wires around my arms, binding and pulling at every vulnerable inch of me. A scream escaped my lips as I fought against their vice grip, the fear morphing into sheer will. In that pulsating struggle, I caught sight of the journal again, open and trembling on the floor beside me. "I want to let you take her," I screamed, my heart pounding as I grabbed the journal with trembling fingers and thrust it toward the shadows. Light within. Show yourself. A blinding flash erupted from the pages, and the room became a maelstrom of brightness, pushing back with a screeching cry. The shadows shrieked, thrashing as they recoiled from the force of illumination. My own cry blended in, half in terror, half in defiance. Suddenly, just as the darkness began to splinter away, I noticed something, a figure just beyond the dissipating shadows. It was small and glowing, the outline of a child, moving toward me, nearly ethereal. Mom. You found me. The voice sounded so much like Sarah's, wrapping around my heart with both relief and dread. But as quickly as it appeared, the glow faded, and shadows clawed their way back, desperate to reclaim what they'd lost. My strength began to wane, fatigue washing over me like waves crushing against the shore. The journal, though, still pulsed with energy in my hands. I shifted my gaze back to it for answers, my chest heaving, sensing that the battle was far from over. The words glittered, beckoning me forth. Was there something more within its pages? Something that could save us both? As the shadows closed in once more, I understood I had to dig deeper. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on my shoulders. What had I really awakened? With each moment, the urgency seeped through me. Determined, I began flipping through the pages again, ready to confront whatever dark truth awaited. But what if the truth revealed wasn't what I expected? The journal trembled violently in my hands as I searched for answers among its pages, the shadows swirling around me like an ominous storm. My heart pounded, echoing in my ears, drowning the sinister whispers that hinted at things best left unspoken. Fingers shaking, I focused on the glowing symbols, their meanings flickering like embers fighting against the darkness. I recalled my mother's eyes, fierce and unyielding, as she had once recounted tales of the light that could banish despair. You must believe, she whispered often, a mantra embedded deep within me. So I fixed my gaze on the pages, forcing my mind to comprehend the dim lines. Certain words began swirling vividly, coming together in a way that felt oddly alive. Essence of the pure, I read aloud. Draw forth your light. Let it guide you with fresh resolve. I pictured Sarah, her laughter brightening every corner of my soul, illuminating the darkness creeping around us. The shadows hissed, a low and frightening sound, vibrating through the air as they writhed ever closer. I felt the warmth brewing again, and with a roar that erupted from my core, I shouted, "Come forth, light! Protect my daughter!" Just as the light began to surge, an icy tendril wrapped around my ankle, yanking me downward. I stumbled, fighting to stay upright as fear threatened to consume my mind. No! I yelled, digging my fingers into the pages of the journal. I want to let you take her. Suddenly, a name surfaced, one I had long buried in the deepest recess of my heart. Elena. I screamed, invoking the spirit of my mother's sister, her memory bursting forth, swirling with the light. As though in response, the shadows recoiled, murmurings of frustration hissing through the air. I could see Sarah's silhouette again, flickering between shadow and light as she reached for me. Mom. Her voice wavered. Help me. Hold on, baby. I'm coming. Desperation coursed through me, and I poured every ounce of love, every moment shared, into the journal. The air thickened, wrapping around us like a shroud. With a surge of energy, I began to chant the words that danced on the page. The journal glowed brighter, the shadows shrieking louder, each syllable pushing against their suffocating grip. Then came the jolt. The shadows staggered back, howling in pain, and within that split second, I felt a magnetic pull, twisting the fabric of space. The journal's pages unfurled mysteriously, revealing a hidden passage I had overlooked before. Light reveals truth. Truth shatters lies. The words resonated in my mind like a gong. What truth could there be hidden within this endless darkness? The shadows reformed, blacker than night, moving in and out like smoke, but I pressed on. Change everything. I cried, hoping against hope the journal could manifest this wish. My hands struggled, trembling as I flipped through the pages frantically. From somewhere distant, I felt the tug of darkness begin to fade, but there was still a lingering sense of urgency in the air, an impending revelation that left me breathless. I needed to know what had been kept from me. Suddenly, the journal halted, opening at a page blank but glowing warmly. A powerful gust tore through the room, lifting the shadows momentarily and revealing something else entirely, a doorway slashed with light, an opportunity. Instinctively, I reached towards it, but the shadows roared, clawing at my wrists, pulling me back like cold iron chains. "Mom, please." Sarah's sorrowful tone pierced through, and in that moment, I could see the pure fear in her eyes, urging me. What lay beyond that doorway? My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through me. I could either slip back into the shadows or take a leap into the unknown light. Just then, a chilling thought struck me. What if the truth I uncovered was more terrifying than the shadows themselves? With a final glance back at Sarah, I steeled myself. The time had come to confront that which I had feared the most, to discover if the light held salvation or doom waiting to emerge. Together, Sarah, I whispered, knowing full well that what lay ahead could change everything, but could we survive it? The moment I stepped toward the shimmering doorway, the shadows writhed in anger, slashing at the air, their whispers morphing into a cacophony of dread. I could feel the weight of their malevolence pressing down on me, squeezing my chest until it hurt. Sarah's eyes shimmered with fear, and in that instant, I knew I couldn't allow the darkness to consume her. "Hold on," I shouted, and as I lunged forward, the shadows screamed, a visceral sound that clawed at my mind. The room pulsed with energy, bright against the encroaching dark. I felt the journal hum against my skin, a lifeline offering the promise of salvation. My hand brushed against the threshold, and an electric surge shot through me. It felt as though my body was splitting into two, one half tethered to fear and the other propelled by an unyielding hope. I could hear Sarah's cries, the terror in her voice igniting a fire within me that burned hotter than the shadows threatening to drag us down. As I crossed the threshold, the shadows recoiled, some evaporating into nothingness, while others twisted around me like serpents, hissing their threats. But I didn't stop. There was no turning back. I focused on the warmth radiating from the journal, pouring every ounce of love I had for Sarah into it. "Fight with me," I called out, hoping against hope that my tenacity would pull her through the dark. The warmth surged, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed an outline of my mother, a fierce spirit standing guard behind us. "You're not alone." Behind me, I heard the shadows screeching, anguished and furious. "Leave. You defy the dark." A guttural voice echoed, resonating with both malice and despair. "I will not let you take my family," I shouted back, feeling my strength rising. The journal pulsed in response, light cascading around us, illuminating the twisted forms of darkness. Then I saw it, a flash of memory, not my own, but something interwoven with my fate. A past I had never fully understood began to unravel, and doubt crept in like a chill. What if this light led to something more horrific than I could bear? But there was no time to hesitate. I felt that flickering doorway urging me forward. I could glimpse its promise, a world bathed in light, vibrant and filled with possibility. With a final surge of energy, I reached towards Sarah, beckoning her closer. In that instant, her hand locked onto mine, and the moment our fingers intertwined, I heard a crack. The sound jolted me. The shadows seethed in rage, their grasp tightening around us as the light blazed brighter, pushing against them. I could feel it tearing away at the clouds of darkness. "This way," I yelled again to Sarah, pulling her toward the brightness. But just then, an ice-cold grip latched onto my ankle, freezing me in place. The shadows had not given up, they were relentless in their pursuit. "You can't escape, Ellie," the voice hissed again, now clearer. "You are bound to us." Pain shot through my leg as I fought to break free, fear mingling with a fervent desire to protect my daughter. I wanted to yell, scream, fight. The journal trembled in my grasp, filled with untapped energy, but I needed to unlock it. My heart raced as the realization hit me. What if the key to beating this darkness lay in the very truth I was seeking? A fierce determination bubbled inside me. I had to confront whatever lay behind that glowing facade. "You will not win," I cried, my voice booming with newfound courage. The shadows roared, a sound so filled with rage it rattled my bones. Then, as if the universe aligned, I felt the warmth from the journal pour into me. Truth. I shouted, the word reverberating around us. Show me. Suddenly, the light exploded around us like a supernova, and I was engulfed in the brilliance. I closed my eyes as visions flooded my mind's secrets, betrayals, revelations about my mother's past that I was never meant to uncover, but before I could grasp the implications, a deafening silence swallowed the sound of the chaos. I opened my eyes to find myself in a different realm, bathed in stark white light. Where was Sarah? As dread began to take root in my heart, I scanned the area before me. Sarah. I called out, my voice trembling. Where was she? Had I lost her to the shadows? Was this the price we had paid for seeking the truth? And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw something movement, a flicker in the light that didn't sit right. I took a cautious step forward, my heart pounding louder than the shadows ever had. What awaited me next could shift everything I thought I knew. What horrifying truth would I face when I finally found her? The white light enveloped me, a sharp contrast to the chaos I had been fighting. It made no sound, no buzz. I could only hear the frantic beating of my heart echoing in my ears. This was a realm unlike anything I had ever experienced, a strange serenity that made me feel utterly alone yet somehow alive. Sarah. My voice broke the silence, desperation fueling each syllable. An unsettling stillness stretched before me. I took a cautious step forward, the surface beneath my feet warm and soft, like walking on clouds. Where are you? I called again, my pulse racing. The silence clouded my mind, stirring anxiety. But just beyond that familiar weight of fear, I sensed something, a presence that felt almost maternal, wrapped around me like a blanket. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shimmer of the light, distant but becoming clearer. My breath caught as recognition hit me like a wave. It was my mother. Her familiar silhouette shimmered like a mirage, and she looked, as I remembered, vibrant and alive though somehow different. Mom. I stumbled forward, engulfed in warmth, yearning to reach her. But she held back, her expression shifting from joy to a pained reminder of the truth. You must understand, Vanessa, her voice echoed softly through the void. There are forces at play you don't yet grasp. The warmth faded, and I felt the space around me tighten. What do you mean? I cried. You left a darkness behind, a curse. Why did you hide everything? Why didn't you tell me? With a gentle resolve, she looked me in the eyes. I wanted to protect you. The truths we bear can bind us to old shadows. But you have awakened them. The shadows roared in protest, swirling at the edges of the bright realm. Their darkness threatened to encroach again, while I fought to anchor myself in this moment. Sarah. I need my daughter. My voice broke, and that fear ignited my adrenaline, pushing me past the numbness clutching at my soul. My mom raised her hand, and I could feel the radiant energy shifting. Face your truth, Vanessa. Only then can you save her. Truth? What is it? I shouted, feeling my fear blossom into rage, the echoes of the shadows around growing louder. Remember our history, she said gently. Face what binds you to your daughter. It's not just your mother's legacy, it's yours. The words hung in the air, vibrating within me. You chose to keep this away from me. I stepped back, battling the running thoughts as shadows flickered in hunger. They twisted and clawed at me like the anguished voices of my family history. You can't turn away. My mother urged. You are the key to break the cycle. The shadows circled me, a flicker of their dark tendrils brushing against my skin, whispering secrets of hauntings I had chosen to forget. Memories surged, connections forming like threads within the fabric of my mind. Moments with Sarah, moments with my mother, and those lost ties to my past. That I felt the connection between us. Our bloodline wasn't just a chain, it was a web, a messy tapestry of love marred by secrets. Light flooded back in waves, illuminating my attachment to the darkness that tethered us. I see it even through the shadows, I declared, my voice steady and strong. I'm not afraid anymore. But just then, another flicker broke through the illumination. "Mom!" A distressed voice cried out. "Sarah?" I felt the familiar lump in my throat. My heart lurched, binding me to the call. She was warning me of something vital. I turned, the shadows receding a fraction, and there she was standing just at the edge of the light, her eyes wide, fear gripping her small features. "Get back, honey!" I shouted, my maternal instincts flaring to life. I reached for her, willing every ounce of love I had into that space between us. But the shadows had other ideas. They surged forward, replicating the confusion and uncertainty my mind struggled to pin down. "Together, Vanessa," my mother urged, her voice a chant amidst the chaos. "No more." I yelled with fierce defiance, extending my arms toward the shadows, ready to drive them back. "Show me. Show me the truth." The moment fell silent, shrouding the air thick with expectancy. Light blazed forth, drowning out the dark tendrils that encroached, as if ignited by a dawn of understanding. The vision was explosive, a series of visceral memories. Faces of those from my past swirled through the light, lost in shadow from my mother's hidden fears to ancestral ties that had been kept secret. Each moment shed chains of fear, wrapping them around the shadows that had clung so tightly to my family's legacy. "Mom! I feel it!" I screamed, the energy thrumming from my core, unbound at last. The shadows recoiled louder and wilder than before while I summoned the courage to shield Sarah from their grasp with the glowing light consuming me. Then I truly saw her. The essence of Sarah, her spirit shimmering brightly against the darkness. "I'm here," she called, her voice clear. "I'm not scared anymore, either." The connection shattered the last remnants of fear. We were anchored by that simple bond, mother and daughter fighting intangible darkness that sought to draw us apart. We were resilient souls tied by blood and spirit, and in that moment, a lingering hope ignited. "Together, Sarah. Let us push them away." As our voices merged, shielded by an overwhelming warmth, the shadows screamed, cracking under the weight of our illumination. Together we stepped toward the light, reclaiming our history, refusing to be devoured. The brilliance enveloped us fully. The shadows dissolved, dissipating like mist, unveiling a canvas of white radiance wrapped around us. And then, all at once, I could hear the echoes fade. The shadows, empty and hollow, were no more. The light unveiled a vast expanse, both familiar and foreign, a realm free of the darkness that had haunted us for so long. The lingering fear danced away, replaced with the sweet scent of possibility. "Is this really it?" I questioned, pulled into the warmth of reality. "Did we win?" "More than that," Sarah said, her smile radiant, as the world around shifted and steadied. "I'm proud of you," she declared with joy, racing into my arms. As I enveloped her in my embrace, I felt the collective weight of our past secure, those lingering shadows forever banished, and our true legacy established beyond fear and darkness. "Together," I whispered, and I realized this was just the beginning. Time unfurled, offering us a new chance to explore the possibilities full of light, love, and the clarity of truth laid bare. Welcome to our forever. Now go forth, forge your legacy, fearless and unbound. You need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear it all, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. Let us grow this amazing community together.